So I've been revisiting. I've been exploring. I've been looking at my Hive Tyrant. And I think right now in 40K, things have kind of shifted. Things have kind of changed. And certainly, I love playing the Hive Tyrant because that's the Fritz avatar on the table right there. I'm downloading my Hive Mind consciousness into this Hive Tyrant, taking command of the space bugs and pushing forward. And certainly there are a number of powerful combinations. But what I'm finding is if I am going to stick to that narrative and I am going to play a Hive Tyrant, and it's always been a powerful model in the 40K universe, in the Tyranid entry army list there. But I'm really hitting a wall. I got to be honest with you guys. I'm really hitting the wall here with this model. The volume of dice is just a little bit too much. It's not an efficient use of points. So I'm kind of figuring out, okay, if I have to play a Hive Tyrant, because that's the narrative, and there's certainly a lot of history behind my model, the model you're looking at, a lot of history here, a lot of games I've played this in, tournaments, bringing it to narrative events. If there was a space bug avatar of Fritz on the table, this would be it. So I feel compelled to play it. Traditionally, well, I won't even say traditionally, how I've been using it for the longest time, and I just posted a podcast, a vlog, to accompany this concept, this podcast here, pushed it up to the 40K archive. So you're going to want to check this out if you're coming in from an alternate source and you didn't get that in your upload feed. The idea of null deployment. And one of the pieces of null deployment in 40K, it's a deployment method for any army. I started it with Tyranids, or I should say I was forced to start it with Tyranids based on the type of armies I was facing at the time to maintain model mass and dice volume in 40K. That's all you need to win 40K. You need to make sure your model mass is up and the amount of dice that you can generate in your chosen turn of shooting or assault is alpha, is a lot on there. There's really not much else to say. But I would use this Hive Tyrant like a Death Star. Just send it forward. It would have some bodyguards. It would have some accompanying broods in there. That kind of changed over the years, maybe Gaunts, maybe Rippers, maybe Tyranids. But essentially I was trying to hit you hard with this Death Star, kind of a bio Land Raider with Terminators in there, and just hit you. But now things are a lot quicker. You know, in previous editions of 40K, it was really easy. Everything moved the same. So you could kind of judge, knowing the distance of the table and the limitations there, when and where you'd hit or what your opponent could reinforce. I push some gargoyles up there to block stuff off. Just literally a bot. Gargoyles are useful for something, right? Just a fast-moving model wall that you would have to shoot through to bypass on there and kind of push through that. So different ways of slowing things down. It was easier. Now in 40K, a lot more things are dynamic with how they move, their shooting profile. So I'm finding I'm not really making it that much. And for the points and the investment and the bodyguard units and the accompanying models to try and take advantage of that chaos, it's not working. So I can double down and keep trying to do it for the lulls and for the fun, or I can reevaluate. So what that means, and this is also kind of, not only I'm going to push it out there to get your opinion on Hive Tyrants, my fellow Tyranid players, but also as an analysis of when your models aren't working, what are some of the options that you can look at if you don't want to scrap the model, if you don't want to scrap the unit on there. So clearly, beginning game is not working. Beginning game is not working. So then what if we shift it to mid-game? What power is it going to have in the mid-game? I don't see it really fitting into the mid-game. And in the mid-game in 40K, you've taken some losses. Your opponent has taken some losses. There's still, unless they've screwed up terribly and you've screwed up terribly, there's still a good amount of dice volume on the table. There's still a good amount of model mass. And mission objectives, you might have a few locked down, but a lot is really still open to play. And with an expensive unit like a Hive Tyrant, now, if I'm not making the points right at the beginning, if I'm like, look, if I show my space bug at the beginning, it's going to get blasted off the table. So I'm going to hide, I'm going to hang back. Those are points that I'm not using. I'm not using those points to decrease your points. I'm not using that volume of dice to decrease your volume of dice. So if I'm not doing that in the beginning, why do I want to hang out towards the middle? Again, not really an efficient use of points. I don't really see it there. So that leaves kind of endgame. Although I guess I could use it mid-game as a reactionary unit. If I had focused it mid-table, usually you want to occupy the center in 40K because the game board is fixed on there. And if I'm in the center and I'm an average speed unit, if you try to move in for a mission objective or you try to move in some other units, I literally have a 360-degree radius command of the table. Where if I'm all the way over on the left side for some reason, my left side, your right side, and something suddenly happens on my right side, it's going to take me a little time to get over there. And while I'm getting over there, you're going to be shooting at me, you're going to be throwing speed bumps at me, doing things like that. So I could use it as a reactionary unit, but for the points and for the dice and for the boom boom, I don't think that's efficient. So this leads to endgame. And this is what I'm kind of looking at. So at the end game, certain powerful units, if you're willing to eat the points in the beginning, the efficient use of points. So what this means is whatever that unit's going to cost, whatever my Hive Tyrant costs in terms of value, I'm not going to be using it till the later part of the game. I might have to cut my model count and take some cheaper units. I can't have, hey, look, I still play Carnifexes. I might not be able to have all my toys, because I'm not dealing enough damage at the beginning of the game to pull that down. But one of the ways, end game, and I used to do this with Lysander, I used to do this with the Emperor's Champion, those have kind of changed a little bit. At the end of the game, you don't have many models, your opponent doesn't have many models, unless they've totally routed you. Mission objectives are kind of locked down, but you have a last-minute play to kind of really sweep or push things on there. And this is where potent, powerful single models, there's nothing left to resist. There's nothing left for the volume of dice to kind of torrent it down on there. Their power level is magnified even more. So my next couple of games, non-Apocalypse games, because Apocalypse is a completely different story. It's just total, in a good way, chaos and madness. In regular 40K, I'm going to try and reserve it to the end. Totally not what the Hive Tyrant was made for, by the way. But I'm just struggling hitting that wall using it at the beginning of the game. Your thoughts, comments, feedback, ideas, places I should be looking. I'm absolutely open to everything because I really want to find a place for this iconic model in the army and in the game.